I would wake up and look in a mirror and be shocked, genuinely surprised that I could recognize and resonate with who I saw in the mirror.
Welcome, beloved soul friends, to a brand new adventure into the known documentary series and implicit revelations case study created by yours truly, Kristin Windsor, consciousness consultant. I invite you to play background music while listening to and watching the following video. Choose some relaxing tunes and play them quietly in the background to amplify your healing journey experience. Have an incredible adventure diving deep into understanding and healing unconscious body-minds to liberate self-essence and transform personal experience from the inside out. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being you.
Hello, brave, beautiful, beloved soul friends. Welcome back to the known documentary series. There's truly nothing I love more than talking about understanding and healing unconscious body minds. It lights me up like nobody's business. And I'm really excited to share with you. My 29th thesis statement here in my implicit revelations case study is that when consciousness teaches the brain and the body to socially engage with itself, the process of healing internal attachments indirectly reconstructs the entire neurobiological social engagement system, which is a way to understand the unconscious body-mind. As neural connectivity expands throughout implicit memories in relation to all the different implicit memories themselves, and as they achieve new neural connections with explicit memories from those experiences, then the unconscious body-mind has greater access to improved navigation unconsciously. Expanding neural connectivity of explicit and implicit memories and that neural data throughout every year of life also improves abilities for self-recognition and self-resonance. And I'll explore this concept later in greater detailed depth because this was a huge breakthrough in the healing journey and implicit revelations case study. But basically, the ability that we have to recognize and resonate with the self that we see in mirrors when we glance in the present moment, or in pictures when we're looking at self aspects from past experiences, etc. Our ability to recognize and resonate with the person that we see in mirrors or pictures, when we talk, when we hear our own voice, when we look at our own physical body, when we see our face, that ability comes from the connectivity of implicit procedural memories throughout all of life. And how all that neural wiring is connecting is going to affect how we recognize and resonate with our own sense of self as consciousness flows through the brain-body system. As one of infinite examples, when neural data expands its connectivity to the point where the 5-year-old childhood self can fully see the adult that they grew up to be and the adult who is here now to care for them, the way that you recognize and resonate with your own self in the mirror totally changes. And this has been one of the coolest things to explore and experience. When I look in a mirror, how I recognize and resonate with the self that I see is totally different in a really, 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 really good, positive, feels good to experience sort of a way. Now that more childhood aspects can see present-day adult aspects, and there's greater connectivity between the neural wiring that's affecting experiences of consciousness throughout 3 subconscious layers, where there's the self experiencing the present moment, there's the self who experienced early childhood, and there's all these self aspects experiencing neural wiring sculpted between those primal pieces of life, original neurodevelopment and the immediate moment. As neural connectivity expands, it transforms self-associations, which is the new role within the neurobiological social engagement system discovered through my Implicit Revelations case study. As my consciousness taught the brain and body to socially engage with itself with an emphasis on nurturing internal attachments, neural connectivity of implicit memory data in relation to the role of self-associations in the neurobiological social engagement system in relation to neural data from every year of life expanded the neural connectivity, which has transformed the way that I am able to recognize and resonate with my own physical face, voice, and body in relation to who I am now and in relation to self aspects from past experiences. I explored in other theses analyses how independent activity in the neurobiological social engagement system affects abilities for self-recognition. For example, while living with adaptable consciousness condition, each state of consciousness had their own abilities for self-recognition. During age-regressive states of consciousness, she would look at pictures from childhood and say, that's who I am, and yet feel zero connection with any aspects of being an adult, including pictures from adulthood and looking in the mirror as an adult. But age-regressive states of consciousness could look at pictures from early childhood and say, that's exactly who I am. I recognize myself right there. That's who I am. And then when Kristin couldn't create new conscious explicit memories for over 3 years, she had no ability to look at pictures from those experiences and recognize herself, because there were dozens of different states of consciousness, so a bunch of different people, not just one person, and each of those persons had their own style of self-recognition. And those experiences were not creating effectively processed new neural intel. And so before, a year ago, 2 years ago, when Kristin would look at pictures from the years where she could not create new conscious explicit memories, she could not recognize herself in them. She might have looked at a picture and said, that's this state of consciousness, or that's this state of consciousness. Because of independent activity in the neurobiological social engagement system, she would recognize different people independently, rather than self-recognition and self-resonance activating within one sense of a state of consciousness. Or she would look at pictures and not recognize herself at all and be totally shocked and astounded that that was her. And that was always the most interesting sensations, beyond the terror and fear of the fact that I'm looking at myself and I can't recognize myself or remember the experience. It was so fascinating to look at pictures that were clearly me, like I know that face, and not be able to recognize or resonate with who that was. It looked and felt like I was looking at a totally different person, because those were experiences I didn't remember, and the sense of self felt totally different, and it didn't look like I was looking at me. And so there were two sides to that. One was, it was really fascinating to look at these self aspects and be like, oh, that's so interesting that Kristin went through that. But then there was also this side where it was terrifying. And for quite some time, especially during 2020, Kristin could not look at pictures from the past few years because it would activate independent implicit memories that were processed in relation to traumatic stress responses without any sense of self. And so when she would look at pictures from the past, not only would she not recognize or resonate with who she was seeing, but looking at those pictures activated implicit memory fragments created during those experiences. And there were all kinds of terrifying, uncomfortable, horrific, anxiety-provoking, even somatically painful sensations activated in the body from those super intense times. Because there were dissociative blackouts, there's oxygen deprivation, there were dislocations of bones throughout the body, mind-body disconnect. There was a bunch of scary stuff going on. And so while explicit memories were not being created, implicit memory fragments were being created, and they held information about all this pain and all this terror that was going on during this season of healing. And so before, when Kristin would look at pictures of herself from the past few years, especially when she couldn't create new conscious explicit memories for over 3 years, not only could she not recognize or resonate with who she was seeing, there was no sense of that was me. There's no sense of I recognize that person. There was no sense of I resonate that an aspect of me was in that experience one time. There was no connection with the self. Not only that, but there were oftentimes floods of implicit memory fragment activations that were very terrifying and overwhelming. And so she very much avoided looking at anything that had ever happened, any pictures. It was like this huge kind of almost like its own trauma response of like, I can't look at any pictures from those experiences because there's just pain and terror and all this stuff that happens, okay? So, not only were there independent states of consciousness who had their own sense of self-recognition throughout all years of life, but Kristin couldn't look back at the past few years and recognize or resonate with herself, and there were floods of implicit memory fragment activations that were horrifying and terrifying and painful as heck to experience, just from looking at a picture of herself from a past experience. Okay? Now, the implicit neural wiring in relation to self-associations, which is a new role in the neurobiological social engagement system that I discovered in my Implicit Revelations case study. That neural data is so connected just by applying thesis number 29, where I didn't work with any memory data at all. I didn't work with any past experiences at all. I didn't touch any neural wiring specifically at all. And yet these practices have expanded neural connectivity and uplifted their content to such a degree that there are abilities for self-recognition and self-resonance fluidly. And so I can look at pictures of Kristin throughout her entire life, and there is a sense of recognition and resonance with distinction and connection between self aspects and components of personal experience. All the different states of consciousness that used to recognize and resonate with who they were independently are now unified in relation with a sense of self-recognition and self-resonance. So for example, there used to be an age-regressive teenager in this brain and body who could look at pictures from ages 14, 15 and say, that was me, I was in that experience, and yet had no connection with the 5-year-old self or the present-day self, for example. Likewise, there were age-regressive states of consciousness going all the way back to 6 months young. 6 months. 6 months young. Not even a year old. And they could recognize themselves in pictures, but have no connection with the 10-year-old self, the teenager self, or the adult self at all. And then there were aspects of adulthood who had independent self-recognition as well. The sense of self who recognized who she was at age 21, and the sense of self who recognized herself at age 25 had no connection with each other. They were different people, according to the neurobiological social engagement system, as neural wiring provided navigation regarding self-recognition and self-resonance. Now, there is a unified sense of self through one fluid state of consciousness, as neural data, explicit and implicit memory data in relation to every year of life adding neural wiring to the neurobiological social engagement system, filed in accordance with all these different roles. All of that data is so connected now that the sense of self who recognizes who she is at age 5, age 14, and the present day, and everywhere in between, has a sense of connected self-associations. In addition, the sense of self is so unified that I can look at pictures from the past several years and have a sense of self-recognition and self-resonance even when I can't remember the details of those experiences. And some of the experiences I can remember, even though I couldn't a year ago. But even when there are experiences I don't fully remember from the past several years, I can look at pictures or videos of Kristin from that time and recognize that that is my consciousness flowing through this exact same brain and body in a different orientation of time and space, and implicitly, energetically resonate with her. And in addition, there are 0 activations of independent implicit memory fragments. So it's not scary to look at pictures from the past few years, even if I can't remember the experiences, or the memory of those experiences has a complete sense of horror to them based on what was happening. And so these processes, these practices, where consciousness is teaching the brain and the body to socially engage with itself, expanded the neural connectivity and improved its content to such a degree that the way that I'm able to recognize and resonate with myself has completely transformed in the most profound way. Different aspects of the self can recognize the body from different periods of life and resonate with its essence in a unified manner. And experiences that were never fully processed. There were no autobiographical memories being created, and all the implicit memories were being processed through fragments. All this implicit data didn't have connection with each other. There was a feeling from this day and a movement action pattern from this day, and they didn't have connection with each other. And the content was low vibrational because of all the health challenges and stress responses going on. All of that neural wiring from over 3 years of not being able to create conscious explicit memories has integrated to such a profound degree that I can look at pictures or videos of Kristin from times I don't necessarily remember from 2-3 years ago and recognize the body that I'm seeing as being the same body I'm in now, and have a sense of implicit energetic resonance with the consciousness who was in that experience, even though I don't often remember the particulars of the experience. And transforming the neural wiring to transform the experiences of consciousness happened without touching the neural wiring. All the implicit neural fragments that had unpleasant sensations and body movements, etc., achieved improved neural content, so there's not all this uncomfortability in the neural data, and expanded the neural connectivity, so now it's unified, and not all of it, but a large portion of it, now has an explicit piece of information to connect it with. And the neural data, throughout all the different roles from every year of life, including implicit and explicit memory data, has such a deep connectivity that the entire way that my consciousness experiences self-recognition and self-resonance is transformed. On the one hand, there is absolutely nothing wrong with experiencing unique styles of self-recognition or self-resonance. It was genuinely a profound, beautiful, beautiful miracle to experience life as a 6 months young state of consciousness who could directly recognize herself in baby pictures and yet have no connection with any of the other stages of life. That was a beautiful miracle to experience.
While you're exploring theses number 7 through 10 that discuss unique orders or unique order of wiring within the neurobiological social engagement system, which is the neuroscientific causality of chronic dissociative age regression resulting from early childhood trauma, while you're exploring theses number 7 through 10, I invite you to explore a known documentary bonus feature titled Age Regression Deserves Global Respect and Compassion. Have fun exploring these miraculous creational wonders.
It was genuinely a profound, beautiful, beautiful miracle to experience life as a 6 months young state of consciousness who could directly recognize herself in baby pictures and yet have no connection with any of the other stages of life. That was a beautiful miracle to experience. And so there's nothing wrong with having unique styles of self-recognition and self-resonance. Not at all. It's all a beautiful miracle, and every miraculous consciousness is allowed to be exactly who and where they are in the healing journey. Simply because you exist, you are a miracle, and you are unconditionally worthy of love. So no matter who you are, how you're recognizing your own brain and body, or your own face, or your own voice, and no matter how you are naturally resonating with your consciousness in the present moment or aspects of self-essence from past experiences, no matter how you're naturally encountering automated experiences of self-recognition and self-resonance, you are perfect as you are, and how you're experiencing life is always allowed, and it's all a beautiful miracle. That being said, it is so astoundingly miraculous to experience the way that I recognize and resonate with myself right now. I never imagined getting here from the times where Kristin was looking in a mirror and literally half of her face was going out and down and she couldn't recognize herself at all. And there were 20 plus people in her body who all had their own independent sense of self and different styles of self-recognition and self-resonance. And she couldn't connect with her sense of self from yesterday or a week ago or a month ago or a year ago. To go from there to here is such a miracle. And I remember in the autumn of 2021, 1 year after I had started to be able to create new conscious explicit memories again for the first time in several years, I remember every single day for several months, I would wake up and look in a mirror and be shocked, genuinely surprised that I could recognize and resonate with who I saw in the mirror. And that was the most profound thing to experience. Like, there were so many times where I would just linger in a mirror before leaving my room or something, or before leaving the bathroom, and I'm just like, how? How do I recognize and resonate with the fact that I am seeing me? And every single day it was more profound, and I continued applying mirror practices along with other styles of the application of Thesis number 29 for 2 to 8 hours every day. Specifically mirror practices, and then all day, every day, applying these practices in other ways, or applying this idea through other practices throughout the days. And every day, every week, every month, the depth and the clarity and the intimacy and the profound attunement with self-recognition and self-resonance changed and improved and expanded. And it is so astounding to experience that. So among the infinite potentials of how applying Thesis number 29 can transform personal experience from the inside out is how the unconscious body-mind recognizes and resonates with its own self-essence. How the brain and the body can recognize its own physical existence, and how consciousness can resonate with self-aspects, because we all have trillions of parts of consciousness, and how those aspects of ourselves connect depend on how fluidly things are flowing within the neurobiological social engagement system. While profoundly unique experiences of self-recognition and self-resonance held great, beautiful, miraculous wonders during unique seasons of my healing journey, I cannot express the depth to which I appreciate and value my ability to recognize and resonate with who I see in the mirror every day. That ability wasn't there, and Kristin wanted it to be. 2 years ago, among the infinite wonders that were transpiring during that season of healing, she had pictures from every year of life, and she had taped them on her wall in order to try and connect that she grew up to be her, who grew up to be her, who grew up to be her, who grew up to be her, and then now I'm here. And every single day, for extended periods of time, she would try to create these new neural connections. She'd be like, okay, I'm looking at this self aspect, now I'm looking at that self aspect, there's distinction and connection. And she was manually trying to piece together the neural data so that consciousness could experience healing homecomings as neurobiological structures integrated and expanded neural content and connectivity to uplift and improve automated navigation and regulation in the unconscious body-mind. 2 years ago, Kristin would have given anything to be able to recognize herself in a mirror. And I'm here now able to do that, hugely in part to daily applications of my 29th thesis statement, which is that when consciousness teaches the brain and the body to socially engage with itself, the process of healing internal attachments indirectly reconstructs all regions of neural wiring, completely transforming the structures of the neurobiological social engagement system. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I'm a little bolder every day. I'm stoked I did not just spill on myself. I'm stoked I did not just spill on myself. Okay, where are we at? Quiet on the set. Okay, so that's the intro. I'd like another way that I love you. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. Okay, this is a little addition. I love you.